She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. My Aunt Lydia stood at the far end of the table, one hand resting on the back of her chair, the other already reaching toward the center, toward the cluster of glasses. My brother and father had just clinked together like they'd just said something clever instead of that. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Her eyes didn't move to me. They stayed locked on my parents. "You really chose tonight?" she said, calm but sharp enough to slice through whatever fake warmth was left in the room. No one answered her. I turned slightly in my chair, my heartbeat suddenly louder than the soft music playing somewhere behind us. Every detail around me started to feel too clear. The flicker of the candles in front of my untouched cake, the condensation sliding down my glass, the way my brother Evan leaned back like he'd just delivered the best line of the night. And my parents? They didn't look surprised. That was the part that didn't make sense. Not the joke, not even the laughter. It was the way they sat there comfortable, prepared. My dad's hand moved slowly toward a leather folder sitting beside his plate. I hadn't noticed it before. Now I couldn't look away. Evan followed my gaze for half a second, then smirked again, like he knew exactly what I was thinking, but also knew I was too late to do anything about it. "What?" he said lightly, glancing around at the table. "Are we all going to pretend this hasn't been obvious for years?" A couple of people shifted uncomfortably. No one defended me. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Obvious? What exactly? My mom finally looked at me, and there was something in her expression I'd never seen before, something colder than indifference. Before she could answer, Lydia stepped forward and placed her hand flat on the folder. "Don't," she said quietly. My dad's smile tightened. "Lydia, sit down. You're making a scene." Her fingers didn't move. "No," she replied. "You already did that." And then she turned to me for the first time. "Hannah, did they tell you what they were planning to have you sign tonight?" The worst part wasn't what she said. It was that nobody at the table looked confused. I stared at my aunt, her question still hanging in the air like something heavy and unavoidable. "Sign what?" The words echoed in my head, but no one rushed to clarify. No one corrected her. Not my parents, not Evan, which meant she wasn't wrong. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, but even to me, my voice sounded thinner than it should have. Evan let out a quiet laugh, leaning forward with his elbows on the table. "Come on, Hannah, don't act like you didn't see this coming." I turned to him, my chest tightening. "See times? What time's coming?" He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned back again, completely at ease, like this entire moment had been rehearsed, and he was just waiting for his cue to keep going. That feeling hit me hard, rehearsed, because suddenly, pieces started clicking into place. Earlier that morning, my dad had called me something he almost never did, unless it was about money or logistics. He'd sounded unusually insistent. "Dinner tonight. Don't be late," he'd said. "It's important." Important. That word had stuck with me all day. And now here I was, sitting at a beautifully set table, candles lit, cake untouched, while my family casually tore me down in front of an audience. I shifted in my chair, trying to steady myself. "Mom," I said, looking directly at her, "what is she talking about?" She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. "It's nothing dramatic," she said finally, brushing it off with a small wave of her hand. "Your aunt is overreacting." "Overreacting?" Lydia repeated, her tone sharpening. "You're about to ask her to sign away everything she helped build, and I'm overreacting?" A murmur rippled through the table. My stomach dropped. Everything she helped build. That didn't make sense. Or, no, it did. It just wasn't something I'd ever fully questioned before. Over the past few years, I'd stepped in more times than I could count. When my dad said the business was struggling, when there were temporary gaps in cash flow, when bills needed covering. It had always been framed as short-term help, family support. I never made a big deal out of it, because that's what you do for family, right? My eyes flicked back to the folder under Lydia's hand, and suddenly, all those temporary moments didn't feel so temporary anymore. "Dad," I said slowly, "what's in that folder?" His jaw tightened, but he kept his voice controlled. Just some paperwork. We were going to go over it after dinner. Then go over it now, Lydia cut in. He shot her a look. This doesn't concern you. It does when you're trying to blindside her, she replied without hesitation. The tension at the table thickened. People shifted in their seats, some avoiding eye contact, others watching like they couldn't look away. Evan exhaled sharply. Can we not turn this into a whole thing? It's just a formality. A formality? I repeated, my voice rising slightly. You stand up, call me a mistake, and now there's paperwork I'm supposed to sign, and that's a times formality? He shrugged. You're making it bigger than it is. I let out a short, disbelieving breath. Then explain it. For the first time, he didn't have an immediate comeback. That silence stretched. And in that silence, my dad finally reached forward, placing his hand over the folder like he was claiming it. We didn't want to do this like this, he said, his tone shifting less casual now, more deliberate. But since your aunt insists, he slid the folder out from under Lydia's hand and turned it toward me. You might as well understand, he added. My fingers hovered over the edge of the leather cover, but I didn't open it yet. Not because I didn't want to, because something in my chest was already telling me. Whatever was inside wasn't going to be small. And as I looked up, meeting each of their eyes one by one, I realized something else. They weren't worried about times if times I'd sign it. They were expecting me to, which meant they thought they had already won. I placed my hand on the folder slowly and looked straight at my father. Explain it, I said. He held my gaze for a second longer than necessary. Then he said, You're not part of this family's future, Hannah. And for a split second, the entire room felt like it tilted. The words didn't land all at once. They sank in slowly, like something heavy dropping through water. You're not part of this family's future. I let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. You can't be serious. Oh, he is, Lydia said flatly. My dad ignored her. His focus stayed on me, steady, almost clinical. You've built your own life. You're independent. This just formalizes what's already true. Formalizes what? I shot back. That I don't matter? That you don't need this, my mom cut in quickly, her tone softer but no less calculated. Hannah, you've always been self-sufficient. Your brother hasn't had the same opportunities. Evan nodded like that explanation made perfect sense. Exactly. I stared at him. Opportunities? I've been covering your mistakes for years. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. That's dramatic. No, I said, sharper now. What's dramatic is calling me a mistake and then sliding paperwork in front of me like I'm supposed to just smile and sign it. My dad exhaled, patience thinning. No one is forcing you, but this is the logical step forward. Logical? Lydia repeated. You're transferring assets she helped fund into Evan's name and calling it logical? That word again. Fund. I turned back to the folder, my fingers finally pressing down as I opened it. Paperwork. Clean. Professional. Already tabbed. My eyes scanned quickly property titles, account transfers, ownership restructuring, and there it was. Evan's name. Over and over again. Replacing. Mine. My breath caught, but I kept reading, forcing myself not to react too fast. There were paragraphs referencing voluntary relinquishment and family consensus, language designed to sound mutual, even generous, but it wasn't. It was a handover, a complete one. I looked up slowly. You're transferring everything to him? It simplifies things, my dad said. For who? I asked. For the family, he replied. I let out a quiet, incredulous breath. I times am times the family. Evan scoffed. Barely. That one hit harder than the toast. A couple of people at the table shifted uncomfortably now. The mood had changed. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was exposure. My mom leaned forward slightly. Hannah, listen. This isn't personal. I laughed again, this time without holding it back. Not personal? You just publicly called me a mistake, and now you want me to sign away everything I've contributed to. How is that times not times personal? Her expression tightened. Lower your voice. No, Lydia said immediately. She should raise it. My dad's tone hardened. Enough. He tapped the edge of the document. Sign it, he said, calm but firm. And we can move past this. Move past this. Like this was a minor disagreement. Like they hadn't just rewritten my place in the family in front of a room full of witnesses. I stared at the page again, then at him. You really thought I'd just agree to this? I asked quietly. Yes, he said. No hesitation. That answer settled something in me. Not anger. Not yet. Clarity. Because in that moment, I understood exactly how they saw me, not as someone who had helped or supported or carried weight when things were falling apart. Just someone convenient. Someone who wouldn't fight back. I closed the folder slowly. Evan smirked. See? Not that hard. I looked at him, really looked at him this time. The confidence, the certainty, the assumption that this was already done. Then I shifted my gaze to my parents. You didn't think I'd check any of this? I asked. A small pause. Too small for most people to notice. But I did. And so did Lydia. My dad frowned slightly. What does that mean? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and unlocked it with steady hands. Evan's smirk faded just a fraction. I placed the phone face up on the table, sliding it forward between us. Because I already have, I said. And for the first time that night, my father didn't look completely in control. For a second, no one touched the phone, not even me. It just sat there between us, screen glowing, the reflection of the candlelight flickering across it like something unstable. My dad's eyes dropped to it, then back to me. Check times what, exactly? His voice was still controlled, but there was something new underneath it. Tension. I leaned back slightly in my chair, keeping my gaze steady. The paperwork, the transfers, the ownership structure. Evan let out a short breath, trying to recover his confidence. That's cute, Hannah, but reading a few documents doesn't make you... I didn't just read them. I cut in. That stopped him. I tapped the screen once. An email thread opened dates, attachments, signatures. Legal confirmations. Wire transfers. My name repeated, documented, undeniable. I went back through everything, I said, my voice calm now. Every transfer I made. Every time you said it was temporary. Every time you said the business just needed a little help. My mom's posture shifted, subtle. But I saw it. You said you'd pay me back, I continued, looking directly at her now. You said it was just to keep things afloat. It was, she said quickly. At the time, I repeated. You were using my money to secure assets. Silence. Not denial. Silence. I tapped the phone again, pulling up a document, one I recognized immediately now that I knew what I was looking at. An early investment agreement, signed years ago, by me. I didn't think much of it when I signed this, I said. You told me it was just a formality so the bank would process things faster. My dad's jaw tightened. That's exactly what it was. No, Lydia said quietly from the side. It wasn't. All eyes shifted to her. She crossed her arms, watching them with a look that said she'd been waiting for this moment. That document didn't just help the process. It established stake. Evan shook his head immediately. That's not how it works. It is when the money came from her, Lydia replied. I held my father's gaze. Tell me I'm wrong. He didn't answer. That was enough. A ripple moved through the table, people leaning in, whispers starting again, but different this time. Not amused, not entertained. Concerned, interested, watching the shift. You used my money, I said, each word measured, to build something. And now you want me to sign something that pretends I was never part of it. That's not what this is, my dad said, but the confidence was slipping now. Then explain it, I pushed. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Evan stepped in, sharper now. It doesn't matter who helped back then. What matters is who's running things now. I looked at him. You? He straightened. Yeah, me. I nodded slowly, like I was considering it. Then I tapped one final document on my phone and turned the screen toward them. Then you should have read this part more carefully. My dad leaned forward despite himself. His eyes scanned the screen. And for the first time all night, his composure cracked. "What is that?" he asked, his voice lower now. I didn't look away. "That," I said, "is what you were hoping I'd never notice." The room felt like it shrank around us. Every sound faded. Every eye locked in. Because whatever was on that screen, it just changed everything. My dad kept staring at the screen like if he looked long enough, the words might rearrange themselves into something safer. They didn't. "It's a controlling interest clause," I said, my voice steady, cutting clean through the silence. "Buried in the original agreement. The one you told me not to worry about." Evan leaned forward, squinting. No, that's not what that means. It means," Lydia said calmly, stepping closer to the table, "that the person who provided the primary capital retains majority ownership unless formally bought out or unless they sign it away." I didn't move my eyes from my father, and I never signed anything like that. A long, heavy pause settled over the table. My mom shook her head slowly, like she was trying to push the reality away. That was years ago. It doesn't apply like that anymore." "It does," I replied. "I had it reviewed, twice." That was the part I hadn't told anyone. Not when I first started digging. Not when the numbers stopped making sense. Not even when I realized how much of my money had gone into everything they now called the family's future. I'd stayed quiet. And tonight, they walked straight into it. Evan's voice rose, sharp and defensive. "Okay, even if that's true, which it's probably not, you haven't been involved in years. You don't run anything." "I don't have to run it," I said. "I own it." That landed. Hard. Across the table, a glass shifted in someone's hand. No one laughed now. No one even pretended this was normal. My dad straightened slowly, his expression tightening into something colder. "You're misunderstanding the situation." "No," I said. "I finally understand it." I gestured lightly to the folder still sitting in front of me. This was your way out. Get me to sign, clean everything up, and move it all under Evan's name. He didn't deny it. "You planned this," I continued, my voice quieter now, but sharper. "The toast. The humiliation. Make me small enough that I'd just go along with it." My mom's eyes flickered. "That's not fair." "Fair?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "You laughed." She didn't have an answer for that. Lydia stepped in beside me, her presence solid, unwavering. "If she signs that document, you walk away with everything. If she doesn't," she let the sentence hang. "They walk away with nothing," I finished. Evan pushed back his chair slightly, agitation breaking through. "You're not seriously going to blow this up over some technicality." I met his gaze. "You called me a mistake. That was a joke." "No," I said. "This was the joke. I tapped the folder once, and I'm not signing it." Silence. Then my dad spoke again, slower now, measured. "If you walk away from this, you're walking away from the family." I held his gaze. "No," I said. "You made that decision before I even sat down." That was it. Whatever thin thread was left snapped. I pushed my chair back and stood. The sound echoed sharper than it should have in the quiet room. No one stopped me. No one apologized. Behind me, I could feel the shift, the weight of what had just happened settling over the table, over the people watching, over the version of this family they'd just seen crack open. "By the way," I added, pausing just long enough to look back, "any attempt to move those assets without my consent will turn into something legal. Fast." My dad didn't respond. He couldn't. I turned and walked out. The air outside hit colder than I expected. I didn't realize how tight my chest had been until it finally loosened, just a little. A few seconds later, the restaurant door opened behind me. Lydia stepped out, joining me without saying anything at first. "You okay?" she asked finally. I nodded once. Not because everything was fine, but because something was clear now. "They really thought I wouldn't notice," I said. "They were counting on it," she replied. I let out a quiet breath, looking out at the street, the city moving like nothing had just shifted. "They called me the biggest mistake," I said. Lydia glanced at me, And? I shook my head slightly. For the first time, I said, I don't think I was the mistake. I didn't look back at the restaurant, and I didn't go back. Not to that table, not to what they thought I was. Because whatever they tried to take from me tonight, they lost a lot more in the process.